Hey, good morning, everybody. Buenos dias, Mike Scott. I'll repeat that. Buenos dias, Mike Scott. Good morning, Royce and Jennifer. Glad y'all are here. And I don't know, my weather app just can't win. It's sunny and warm again. Well, it may not be as warm as it feels, but because I got my wood stove going. But it's certainly sunny, and I'm barefoot. Oh, yeah. But then I come outside and it's not quite as warm as it feels, but as it looks. Anyway, I'm just really happy. I love my peaceful, quiet desert area. And really hoping I can get the shoes on my horse today and then take her for a ride. So I just love it. This is perfect. Okay, so I do enjoy winter, but I gotta say, I think this is my favorite time when it's not too hot in the daytime, but it's, you know, cool enough that I can work, but warm enough that I don't have to bundle up and keep a fire going to stay warm. This is just exciting times. Yesterday was the solstice and I missed it. So I like to gauge how far up the sun is when it rises. And I'm actually really surprised. I'm really surprised at how far up the horizon it is already, and it's only March 22nd. So anyway, that's just fun. I figured that out when I visited Ireland and saw their 1,000-year-old stone monuments, kind of like the Stonehenge, that kind of thing. But they had these great big stones, like 5 feet tall each one, and they were about 10 feet apart from each other. And oh, whoops, wrong hand. Okay, there we go. And the tips of the rocks were lined up like that. And these were like, 2-ton rocks each, or maybe I don't know how heavy rocks are, but they were big. And the way they lined up like that was exactly for probably the summer solstice, where the sun rose in the summer solstice. So if you crouched down and looked at them, anyway, that was my introduction to it. So I thought that was fascinating how they did all those things, monitoring the way the universe is in movement. And then I took a science class where we watched the moon. And there's just something cool about being in touch with where everything's moving in the universe. Not everything, but certain things, the most apparent things for us. So anyway, 80 down here in Southern Oregon. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Are you coastal Southern Oregon? Oh yeah, Mike Scott. Yeah, you're over on. Yeah. Well, we hit 70, I believe. I'm surprised you guys are that much warmer than us. That's wild. Anyway, this is only my second cup of coffee. I was reading a book. I don't know how time passed so fast. I woke up at 4:30. Next thing I know, it's 8 o'clock without falling asleep. I don't know. But I did read a book, and lazy Sunday. Wake up in the middle of the afternoon. Call Parnell just to see how he's doing. So anyway, life's good. Finished off. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Medford. Okay, that's what I was thinking. You're already in the high 90s and hundreds. Oh my goodness. Oklahoma, you're like Phoenix. That's like Phoenix weather. Apparently, Phoenix hit 103 the other day. And apparently that's a record that hasn't been set for a long time. So I don't know. Maybe that's going to tell us we're going to have a hot summer. sometimes it seems like we hit hot temperatures and then sometimes it's like a prediction for the worst of the summer. Sometimes it's like a false prediction. What I do know is my other property is flooding. It breached the creek bank in 2 places. So my main drive where I would drive in and park my vehicles and stuff over at the other place, it's all flooded. And there's a creek going all the way down to the road. But it's not that bad. It's just the places that I like to use. So anyway, it's good times. It's a good time to be an American that stays home and doesn't drive much. These gas prices are ridiculous. I use the gas app, the Gas Buddy app, and I saw that diesel was the cheapest I could find. Diesel was $6, but the cheapest in my area, there was a place that said $5.39, which is still ridiculously expensive, but it was also in the way I was going. I was headed to get something out in the country and then go home. So I got there and it was $6.39. I think that the owner of the gas station did that intentionally. So I corrected the price on the gas app and drove back to Walmart where it said it was $6, but it was actually $6.10. Anyway, I hate the way. I mean, I can accept gas prices being expensive. I mean, I get that we're all pawns in their billion-dollar schemes, but I hate how they are so manipulative. In out by El Paso, every gas station is 85. Same with Idaho, Idaho. A lot of their gas is the 85 octane. But they advertise it like it's 87. So I drive vehicles, I can use 87. Anyway, I hate those stupid scams. Like, just be honest. But maybe people who live there understand. But you can go to one place and it's 87 octane. Then you go to another and it's 85, and all the signage is the same. So I don't think it's me. I don't think it's because I'm not a local. Anyway, I hate scams like that. Another thing I'm noticing, since I'm on that subject, is it's so hard to find a price for anything. You click on, let's say you want to use Peacock for a month to stream something. You got to Google the price because they won't put it on their site. I'm trying to learn how to trade stocks, and there's this guy that I really like, and he's smart, and he gives a free trial with no credit card. And but you try to find the pricing, and you even click on pricing guide, and you click on it, and it's nothing. That's just two examples of the trends. And I hate that kind of dishonesty, conniving BS. Somebody might see this and say, but Richard, you are a realtor. Yes, and I was an honest one, and I was straightforward, and that's why my clients loved me, and I succeeded. I don't know. In my experience, you don't have to be a scammer to get ahead, but that's what everything is. YouTube, whatever. Anyway, maybe I need some coffee. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I need to drink some chamomile. Let's see a couple comments here. Whoa. Hey, Craig, good morning. Thankfully, with the warm weather, I've been riding the Harley to and from work a lot. Nice. Yeah. That 42 miles per gallon is nice. Yeah, I've been driving my truck because I got to use my truck to get out of here. My motorcycle would get beat up because the road's too rough. And so I got to use my truck to get in and out. And then once I'm in town, it's like, well, why go to my other property to get my car? I used to park my car at a friend's house down the road. I need to do that again, but it sucks to be dependent on other people. But she was really kind about it, didn't mind at all. So maybe I'll ask her. So my car gets really good mileage per gallon. But yeah, anyway, that's the perk about warm weather is the motorcycle. Like, man, for some reason, I love riding my motorcycle in 90-degree temperatures, 100 degrees. But put me in a car without air conditioning and I'd rather just not go anywhere in those same temps. It's $4 something here in Lawton, Oklahoma. Yeah, that's nuts. It should be like $2.50 in Lawton, right? Yeah, this is an odd year. It's an interesting year for sure. I know that it's a good year to stay home a lot. Even though I might be going, I'd like to go to Nevada, and I decided I can combine a Nevada-California trip because some friends are going to be doing a cowboy event in California, and I'd like to go to that. And then I just might go over to Tombstone for a couple days and then drive home. So that's not too bad, a week, 9 days. But man, honestly, I kind of just want to stay here all the time. Well, here we go. Sitting here bare feet, enjoying the sun. And in a little bit, I got to walk the dogs. I didn't get them walked. And then I'm going to drug my horse. I'm going to trim her other foot. And then I'm going to drug her and put shoes on her feet. And then I can ride, because right now only her front feet have shoes and she walks really tenderly through the rocks. She really doesn't like the rocks. So hopefully I get these shoes on her and then we can ride more normally. So I'm excited because we've been doing some really good rides, and that just gets me really excited because then I can get out and explore and see all the wildflowers. There's a ton of wildflowers now. It's amazing. And I have a camera with a good lens for taking pictures of small flowers, because these early wildflowers are pretty small. Some of them are really small. But when you're walking, it looks really nice. When you take a picture, they all just kind of disappear. But I'm going to try to get some good photos. So anyway. All right. That was good coffee. Usually that would be my third cup, but today it was my second cup. There's my good old Starlink. They switched Starlink up to 100 gigs per month for the same price that they were doing 50 gigs, which is still not quite enough for me to go just full-time using Starlink, which means that now each month I've got like 40 gigs left over. But I'm not complaining. But now that the sun's out more, I can use it more because it also uses up battery that my phone doesn't use. So anyway, I don't know. That's just life around here. Got to prepare for the warm weather, just like most people with harsh winters got to prepare for winter. I got to prepare for the warm winter. got to make sure I can keep that freezer frozen. I was thinking about digging an extended hole, a side hole off of this cellar that I'm digging, where I can make it exclusively a cooler with my 4-inch. I've got that 4-inch rigid insulation. So I thought I'd take 2 layers and make a top, and then nothing on the bottom because the bottom gets the ground temperature, and then use insulation on the sides, and try to make it airtight or backfill so that the dirt's around it and it's airtight, and then freeze ice in my freezer, because I can do that while the sun's shining, so it won't hurt. I won't drain a battery, and then transfer the ice instead of trying to keep things, because I find overnight when the freezer's not running, even though I got a bunch of ice in there, it warms up too much, and the stuff isn't staying frozen consistently. Hey, Milan Wengler, good morning. Glad you made it. So that's stuff I got to do. That's pretty much it. Preparing for summer. Oh, and I gotta dig the plants. I gotta plant some trees. Got to finally do that. I got this tree that's now been in a pot for 13 years. The poor thing. It was growing really good. It was about 4 or 5 feet tall, but then because those roots were so compressed in this pot, it started to die off. So it's still alive, but now it's smaller than the other tree that I planted like a year or 2 later, which sucks. I just never knew where I wanted to plant it. So now this year, I'm probably just going to plant it by one by my cellar. I don't know. Maybe I'll do one over here after all. They're dogwood trees. I really love dogwood trees, and dogwoods are like our Yakima City tree. Right now, the magnolias are in bloom. They bloom first, and then when those start to fade, the dogwoods come up. So there's certain roads you can drive down and see the magnolias and the dogwoods. It's really pretty. And at my house that I sold, but I still love that house, I planted 2 dogwood trees, and then there's a few others, and somebody's got a decorative cherry tree, and so I like driving by and seeing them. But anyway, so now I'll have some here eventually. I got to go plant them, but I got too many projects. But the one that I'm most looking forward to is my Western. I'm determined to shoot it next weekend, even though I had a guy that was going to be perfect for the part, but he didn't realize when he committed that he had family stuff going on, so he had to back out, which is cool. It kind of sucked because I was really looking forward to him. I had him in my mind, but then they say with movie making, you got to be ready for that kind of stuff. And the thing is about a movie, it's like, this is how the magic happens when things fall apart and you think, oh no, it's not going to work out. And then you have to make something work. And then you find out that was the best way it could have been anyway. There's a lot of stories like that with movies where, us as viewing the movie, it's like, man, these people are genius the way they put this together. But then you hear a behind the scenes story of how it was like chaos and it got put together, and you realize, in my view, with artwork, music, whatever, it's like there's a force behind it making it happen. I feel like there's an element of God that is out there for creative expression, and it channels into people. And I've felt it. I've written songs where I just couldn't stop writing. I just stopped, not because I was running out of words, but it was just flowing through me. And ideas for stories. Like it's weird. I don't know how many people are tuned into that. I know there are a lot of people that are, but I get tuned into it quite a bit. So anyway, that's the attitude you got to keep when somebody finds out, hey, I was wrong. I couldn't do it. But now, and even the way that works out, so I contacted a couple other guys that were interested in shooting this 3-minute film with me. And one of the guys, I think he's going to be perfect. So now I'm able to imagine him in the part, and I think it's going to be great. And then the original guy, I realized, oh, I know where I can use him, and he'll be perfect for that other part in part 3 or 4 that I hope to do if these are any good. And so, that's a lesson for me. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like when things fall apart. So I guess you could say that was a victory. That's just the attitude I got to have because things are going to continually fall apart. I got about 70 acres out here. And yeah, and I'm near public land, so I got lots of land I can ride on, wander on. Yesterday when I was leaving town, there was like 4 side-by-sides running up the way over there, a ways away from me, and they drove up to the hill, up to the road, and took off. If I had been here, I would have gone that way and cut them off with my horse. Not cut them off, just ridden over there to get a look at them. I'm really into side-by-sides right now, but I don't think I want to buy one because not owning stuff is freedom, or owning very little is freedom. So I'm in that phase of, man, if I had a side-by-side, everything would be perfect. But then I got to think past that and think, well, they break down. It's amazing how many of them are for sale with only, I don't remember now. Yeah, a couple thousand hours on them. And then some of them with 3,000 hours or whatever, 3,500, I think, if I'm remembering the numbers right. There's a long list of things that were repaired and replaced. I'm thinking, my goodness. I think 3,500 isn't much time. I don't know. I know about miles. I don't know about hours. But it doesn't seem like much. And when I Googled it, they said 3,000 isn't much for a side-by-side. And yet, people replacing engines and all that. So that's the reality of consumerism. They dangle stuff in front of us that we think will change our lives and make us happy. But then when you think it through more thoroughly, it's like, okay, is that thing even going to run? I'm going to have to trailer it into town and pay to have it fixed. And so it's going to, like, in the amount of time and money doing that, I could just hike out and explore. That's why I want one, is just to explore, not to go sand dunes or anything like that. And, or I could just drive my truck, or hopefully my horse. So anyway, that's the reality of consumerism. Not getting lied to. Now that being said, side by side could be a lot of fun, but just got to be grounded and realistic about it. And maybe someday I'll own one if I have a lot of money. Yeah, well, let's see. Milan commented on that. I don't know how long ago you commented, and I think I addressed that. It can be freedom, but it can also be. Somebody told me that this year, I think it was, or last year, Polaris really did some serious upgrades with them, so that they should be more and more durable, or more durable. And now I'll have an advantage. The ground is rocky here, so I guess as long as the springs hold up, then I would be okay. But they would definitely get tested here. Otherwise, I'm not gonna like push it hard. But I don't know. I mean, I'd really like to have something eventually if I have enough money, but I want it. I'm kind of broke now, so I don't want it to break down and then I don't have the money for it. But anyway, speaking of freedom, so I just finished that book. It was the story a white guy went out and learned a ton about the Plains Indians, multiple tribes, but primarily the Cheyenne. That was his favorite focus. But he learned a lot about a few other tribes. I don't remember which ones. This one, he didn't state which tribe, but it's believed that it was Cheyenne. And it was a story that a guy told him, presumably probably when the guy was on the reservation, because the book kind of has sad ending, just like all Old West stories. They start out happily ever after and end with a sad ending of civilization surrounding them. And anyway, this was a story of him from stories that his mother had told him about childhood until he could remember stories that he could remember, and then becoming a warrior, and then concluded with getting married. And then he said that then the white people came in and they fought him, but eventually squeezed him out. And he said, I don't want to talk about that. Um, so it's sad. I mean, I mean, obviously there's some good. I'm not a white guilt person by any means. But I can also acknowledge the sadness that happened, but also the goodness that happened, but also the evil that happened. I mean, those tribes were fighting constantly. And so I don't know, especially like the Aztecs, that's a great example where it's like, well, they're killing people, chopping off heads, however many a day. It's a very disputed number, but anyway, there was a lot about their life that was amazing. I mean, they had a very clear understanding of being a man. Um, uh, Being a man, and and it truly was manliness that like he became a good hunter and a good warrior, which was essential to survival. It's not like now where, I mean, I don't embrace a lot of those traditional manly things. I go and shop for my food. I get a lot of my meat from people who don't need it, and so they're happy to give it to me because it feels better than letting it go to waste. But that's kind of the reality of things, and I don't ask for things. I don't like beg, because I make it clear if you want something, like if somebody's having a cow slaughtered and butchered, I don't tell them, "Hey, can I have this or that?" I tell them, "If there's parts you don't want, I'll be glad to make use of them. But if there's anything you want," like a lot of people throw away liver and heart, believe it or not. They just throw it out. And so I make it clear, if you want it, then I do not want it, because I'm not trying to look for handouts. I'm trying to look for the garbage that would otherwise be garbage and take it. So I try to be very clear about that. But anyway, you do enough. I mean, there's enough of that for a single guy at least, to live off of. Somebody needed to make room in their freezer. Actually, this has happened quite a few times where people need to make room in their freezer, and they say, "Hey, I heard you take stuff. Do you want this?" And I tell them, "Absolutely. Thank you very much." So it's a win-win. It doesn't feel good to throw away. Even if you had to throw that away, it doesn't feel good. So it feels better to know it went to good use. So some of it I feed my dogs, and some of it I'm able to eat. And a lot of it I'm able to eat, believe it or not. So I don't have to be a hunter, is the point there. I don't need to raise animals because there's enough going to waste that I don't really need to do it. And so I have to find other ways to contribute to society. So hopefully my art creativity endeavors will be welcomed and enjoyed. And I should do more videos sharing how to live a simple life. Hey, good morning, Stanley. Glad you made it. Just talking about how good the Indian life was. There were white kids that got kidnapped by the Indian tribes. And then when their parents came looking for them, there's an actual story like this. I don't know how often it happened, but if I remember right, it was these two brothers that got kidnapped And then they got separated. One went to the Comanches, one went to the Apaches. And one of them, his dad showed up. It was his dad, or I think it was his dad, showed up in the camp. And his new dad, the Indian dad, the chief that he lived with, asked him, "Do you want to go?" And the kid wrote the story. This is later in his life. And he said, "No, I hid, told him not to let him find me." It was an amazing story. And if you think about this, this was, back in the 1860s, 70s. This was when kids were seeing the Texas Cowboys. I'm talking out there around Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. And they were seeing the Texas Cowboys and thinking, man, I want to live like that. I don't want to live here where we don't have any horses and we have to use a hoe all day long. And dad's always grumpy telling me to work and quit trying to be a kid. And, so a lot of them ran off to be cowboys because they saw these cowboys riding through and admired that life. And then some of them got kidnapped by Comanches or whoever. The kidnapping, I think, was fairly common amongst a lot of those tribes out there. And they go there, and when you read about child life in an Indian camp, it's amazing. And I'm not anti-white. I need to keep reiterating that. I'm happy to be white. I know that that's not a popular thing these days with the leftists, but I'm not ashamed of not white guilt. But when you read about the Indian way of life, like this kid, he didn't have a dad. His dad died in war. This is the kid, the Cheyenne kid. And so his mom was raising him. And of course, his aunts and uncles helped. But he told the story of how his uncle came along and one day gave him a bow and arrow. The arrows were blunted, so they were for practice because it was his first one. And his uncle told him, go out and kill birds with this and learn, And so this kid and his friends, they didn't put chores on kids like they do today. Well, in my day, not these days. These days, kids don't have any responsibilities, I think, for the most part. But they were told to just go play. But what they were playing was setting them up to be warriors and hunters. So they would play wrestle. They'd play with their bows and arrows. They'd play throwing hatchets. They'd play trapping animals. And, that was their play. And by playing that, it was preparing them to be warriors, which was a very dire necessity in that society. He really stressed that or showed how important the warrior was in their society. And so the kids he was tasked with some chores because he was a kid. So that was interesting because I hadn't heard that before. He had to help out with things that were women's work. Like his mom would make him carry water, I think, when he was, I'm guessing he was like 5, 6, 7 years old. Says, I don't want to do that. None of the men do that. And she said, well, when you're a man, you won't have to, something like that. But they weren't overburdened. The kids weren't. I've read multiple accounts about childhood life. They mostly just went out and played. Sometimes they had to watch the horses. That was also a task for a lot of the kids. But even while they were watching horses, that's where I read one about these kids. They were playing. I think they were wrestling, having a wrestling contest. And then they said, hey, let's trap some prairie dogs. And so they trapped like 3 or 4 prairie dogs. They cooked them up right there and ate, and then carried the rest of them home to his mom. And his mom was all proud of him. And so you see how childhood life had a direct correlation to manliness in that society. And so they didn't have to burden them with chores and responsibility because it all came from inside where they wanted all of that. Like he really wanted to go to war on a war party. Even though that's really terrifying, that's where you most likely risk your death, the tribe had provided, or the tribe had, I forgot the word I was about to use, had, shaped him for it. So by the time he was like 15, I think is when he went along on his first war party. He was excited to go. He was scared. He was still scared, but he did pull off a brave feat. They snuck into a camp and he didn't know where to go. It was his first time and they left him and he just did what he thought was best. He went in and stole a bow and arrow out of a tent, out of a teepee, and then he cut the rope of a horse and rode off. So on his very first outing, he got a nice bow and arrow set and a nice horse. It was a good horse. And so in the camp, they praised him, and his uncle really boasted and had a feast. Look at what my nephew did. And so anyway, even, these days they got to tempt kids into joining the military. They got to coerce them and convince them that, oh, yeah, this is really important for the safety of our nation, which might have been true for World War II. But now in retrospect, we know that these wars are really just to help make people rich. And there's no direct correlation to our lives and manliness. And so now, because we don't have an internal motivation to be manly, because why do I want to go work at a factory? Now, I don't want to hurt any feelings or get the wrong idea. In the After the Depression, working at a factory was a big deal, because when you're sitting around with nothing to do because there's no work and no food, and then a job comes up, that's a different story. Like, I've seen that even in South Africa. I saw it. I've seen it here. When I was younger, it was more of a better economy. And like in Africa, I was surprised, Oh, and with Mexicans that I worked with, I hated my job. I hated my life when I was younger, working in those miserable jobs. And I thought everybody did. But I talked to these Mexican guys I was friends with, and I said, "Man, don't you hate it here?" And they're like, "What? No, we love this." They're like, "It feels," they're like, "It makes me feel like a good man because I get to go to work and make money." And it really shocked me with the attitude, but it makes sense. They came from Mexico where there was a lot of poverty and there wasn't, even if they wanted to work, there wasn't really opportunity where they were from. And so, but then the problem is these generations, we move along and all of a sudden now we have a generation problem where it's like, I just don't, we have such an abundance and we're so spoiled. There's not like, why do I want to go work a job that sucks when, life's so easy? Anyway, I hope I'm making my point right. Because when we strip that direct correlation to what we are passionate about with what is manly, then things go askew. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm surprised more people aren't butchers. Being a butcher is a cool, manly job. It directly correlates with eating. Like, you get the best meat and you make good money being a butcher, but not many people do it. But, that's one where I could see, and there's a lot of room for being like an artist and being a butcher. There's a lot of it's kind of a popular trend still. You can watch videos on YouTube and stuff, and on Facebook, I'm in a group, and getting really good at it, and then making meats and all that. Stuff like that. Or this guy out at my other property, this guy, he leases a lot of land and raises hay and cows, and that's just really cool. He's a really admirable man. Direct correlation to things that feel good being a man and doing, and then and it is true manliness. So there are opportunities, but there's so few. And I don't know if I'm making my point very clearly, but I suppose I am.
Yeah. Oh man. Speaking of beef, so Royce and Jennifer talked about that. Yeah, meat prices are absolutely insane, and uh, um, and then a lot of people, I've seen people retort about the beef prices, saying, "Well, don't you think the farmers are worth it, or whatever like that?" But the problem is, the farmers aren't making the money. That's another reason I advocate for being a butcher. If I have a ton of money someday, I might just open a butcher shop, if I had multi-million dollars, I'd build a butcher shop that I let people just come in and use it, like, or let a couple of butchers use it, and, to try to encourage it, because if you raise your own cow and then you sell it and then you butcher it, you're making a ton of money. The profits are going to you. I shouldn't say a ton of money, it's all relative, but you're putting more money in the pocket. If you just raise beef and then you sell it at the auction to, or whatever, to, Washington Beef is the big commercial butcher here, then you're only making I mean, they're gonna pay as little as possible. I know the prices still fluctuate with the market, but they're gonna pay on the low end because they're the big reliable buyer. And, and then so you have that one chance at profit. Um, and so anyway, the meat prices are going up, and I don't think it's because the farmers are making a lot of money. That's my point there. But I think that they could, if people started thinking locally more and selling direct. I've worked out a lot of numbers on that before. Um, Milan, have I ever been to a national park? And if so, which one do I like best? I've been to 2 or 3 national parks. I don't like going to them because there's so many laws and rules, like, "Don't pull over on this road. You can only park in this area, and don't park there for more than 3 hours, and, don't leave your dogs in the car," and, and then the fees for entering them, and when you do walk your dog, don't walk it here or there. I just don't like it, and I know that they're the most beautiful places. The national parks, they take the most beautiful natural parts of America, and they make them into a national park, and they make tons of rules, and people go there in big numbers, so you kinda need the rules, otherwise you trample everything. And I just say, "Why? I can go out here, and this is extremely beautiful, and I've got it mostly to myself." So I don't really care to go to national parks. Um, Out here, I can carry a gun and shoot it, and I can walk my dogs off a leash. I can ride my horses. I can look at the wildflowers. But that being said, it is worth it to go to Mount Rainier. That's for sure. Mount Rainier is so beautiful when all the flowers are in bloom, the groundhogs are running around, and you're up there at 10,000 feet. I think it was 10,000. So I'd say Mount Rainier was probably my favorite, but I don't know. I might go there someday again, just drive up for the day, but that's about it. I went to Big Bend National Park. Big Bend isn't that much different from where I'm at right now, and that was a mess. However, I will go back to Big Bend if I were down in that area because, for one, the hot spring that's right on the Rio Grande River, I had that all to myself. It was so cool. And then the other thing was there's this place where you can cross the Rio Grande by boat over to Mexico, and then you rent a horse or a donkey and ride it up to town. It's only about a mile, if that. And then when you get to town, you tie it off to a tree and you go. And at the time, I didn't drink alcohol at all, but now I can see how having a cold beer would be a lot of fun. But I ordered food and sat with a few other Americans. But there was this guy, this local guy, who sat down right next to us to play guitar, to panhandle, which I wouldn't mind, but he was so loud. He was like, dude, are you trying to run us off? I'm certainly not going to give you any money. He was just obnoxious, so we had to get up and leave. Other than that, it was really cool going into this little town, supporting their economy a little bit, and having a really cool experience. So for that, I would go back to the national park, but that really had nothing to do with the national park. You just have to access it from there. So no, I'm not into national parks, to make that long story short. Oh, I'd like to go to I'd like to go to Yellowstone also, but I'll have to go in the off season when it's not a lot of traffic. So anyway, I buy my meat from a local ranch. Nice. Yeah, not surprised there, Stanley. That's what I'm going to do when I get money ahead. And right now, I don't really have a reliable freezer, so I got to figure that out. But I'd like to buy a pork and a beef and have them butchered. And I don't know, maybe I'll have to rent a storage unit and put a freezer in that. That's a lot of money, though. Milan pays, wow, yeah, that's a lot of money for chicken breast. Whew. Around here, I could eat chicken for free all the time if I was not such a nice guy and could kill roosters. I've done it in the past. I'd kill them and then feather them, but after having my pet rooster, I just have a hard time with that now. I think roosters are just such cool birds. I like them better than the hens. I always thought roosters were mean and hens were nice, but and I do like the hens too. I had a sweet one. Oh, Mike Scott, you also get your beef from a local butcher. That get cows from a local rancher. So prices nice. Yeah, see, that's what Americans need to do. It's better meat. A lot of this, like I can't eat. It's been years since I could eat Subway, as in like 20 years. We got a place called Mod Pizza. I don't know if y'all have that. It's cheap pizza, but it's really good, and you get to make it your own, kind of like a Subway of pizza. Really good, but I can't eat that either. They all use this processed meat that my stomach is really sensitive to. And then I found out recently that processed meat is also a carcinogen. Oh, Royce or Jennifer Royce, I'm assuming. I worked in a butcher shop during the summers back when I was younger in Kansas. Still wish I would have gotten really into it. Man, you should look for a job doing that again if you're into it. Because once you learn, then you can go off and work for yourself. But yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to see so many people here are paying. It's tourist season here in Oklahoma. You can tell who's out of state because how close they get to the fluffy buffalo. You guys have a lot of buffalo there in Oklahoma? I mean, where people can actually get close to them? You must have like animal parks that people can drive through or something. Yeah, if you want to explain, I'd be interested. But yeah, anyway, that's cool. I appreciate hearing that. I'm glad to hear that the people are doing it right. I need to post again because I've been buying. I hate to do it. I hate to support the commercial food industry, especially chickens. The way they treat chickens is horrible, but it's hard to find beef liver for sale these days, and I can find chicken liver easier, and I've been buying that, and I need to stop. I need to post, because people are having beef slaughtered all the time, and they usually don't want the liver, and a couple of beef liver goes a long way. So I got to get on Facebook and make that post. So that's my thing. Otherwise, I've got a lot of meat that I'm still eating through that was given to me. A lot of buffalo meat. Man, I am so grateful to those people. I got loaded up on buffalo. So me and the dog are me and the dogs are eating that. And then another friend gave me a lot of elk and deer. So we've been eating really, really well. But you got to use that organ meat for the vitamins. And I know it can be hard to enjoy liver, but it's really healthy. There's a lot of vitamins in it. So I give some I try to feed my dogs liver and heart meat, but not too much to where it hurts them. Cheers. Talking so much. How much time has it been? It's funny how different the screen is on here versus my wild side live stream. It's a different setup for some reason, and probably because on that one I'm monetized because I've got more subscribers, and on this one I'm not. Anyway, looks like I've been at it for almost an hour. Here's poor Sparta. She's old, so she has a hard time getting in. But if I walk over here to help her, she gets scared. Oh, this is how I help her. Oh, see, she got scared. I didn't even help her. Not physically. Helped her psychologically by motivating her, I guess. Yeah, it's weird living with old dogs. But Maddie still gets around better than Sparta. But they both get around pretty well. And I got to take them for a walk. That's their favorite time of the day. Well, that or food. All right, guys. I was talking about this book. If you want to read it, I think it's $10 on Amazon. This is the story of the Cheyenne kid that grew up to be a warrior. Fascinating insight into the life. I don't think it's made up a whole lot, glamorized. I think it's pretty true. Pretty realistic. Obviously, they're going to leave out what they did to their enemies. Like, some of that gets a little bit cleaned up. But send me some pictures. Oh, okay, cool. We are out here by Fort Sill, and Medical Park is a wildlife refuge right by Fort Sill that has buffalo and longhorn cattle. Oh, wow, cool. Oh, bless me. Yeah, it's allergy season. Tis the season to be sneezing. All right. Any more questions or comments? All right, I'm going to look up Fort Sill and Medicine Park. Hopefully. So I should get my shoes on my horse today. That's one of my goals, even though it's Sunday. I'd like to get that done. And then assuming she's doing better walking on these rocks, I'm going to start getting footage. Get some video of me riding her, some historical type footage. So that's kind of what I've been waiting on. And that's about it. The poor girl's been pinned up for 2 days, and I need to get them out where they can get some exercise. See that smoke? I don't know if it's the air pressure or what, but I've been having a hard time getting smoke to go out the chimney completely. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We're missing a few people that are regulars on Sunday. I'm probably not going to be here next Sunday.
because I'm planning to shoot a 3-minute short film next Sunday. I got a guy lined up for it who's going to play the other role, and I'd like to do it Sunday morning when the sun is at such an angle that we get these good shadows like I'm getting on my face right now. Maybe a little bit more intense where one side's lit and then one side's dark. That's how you do it. And so I'd like to get it when the sun is at an angle. So morning would be best because then if it takes too long, still got sunlight rather than nighttime where you're just out of luck. So, all right. Well, this has been a fun conversation. I hope you guys all have a good day. Enjoy your spring. Hope you get out and enjoy nature. All that. And I'm going to go walk these dogs. Catch me on Facebook or Instagram during the week. All right, folks. Have a good day. Remember, life's a lot more fun over on the wild side.